This is a great day for Knoxville. It's a great day for our campaign to move Knoxville forward. In a minute, you're going to hear from these gentlemen behind me, but I first want to say how humbled I am to have their full support and endorsement. They are amazing public servants, and they share my plan and vision to move Knoxville forward. My plan's simple. I'm going to focus on supporting our businesses and cutting the waste in city government so that we can redirect those funds to improving city services and making our neighborhoods safer. Last week, we released the Padgett plan. It's a 30-page document that really just continues the conversation that we've been having with Knoxville Forward, where I lay out my specific plans, the low-hanging fruit, the best opportunities, some new ideas, and some things that we already do that we could be doing better. For example, in the second section, we talk about stronger, safer, and better connected neighborhoods. We talk about helping communities that don't have organizations to better organize. We talk about supporting neighborhood organizations where they exist. We talk about making Knoxville the most walkable, bikeable, runnable city in the Southeast. We talk about making sure we're focused on the root problems in our community: drugs, gangs, and prostitution. And I've talked about restructuring the organizational chart to make sure that the person directly responsible for vacant, blighted, and abandoned properties has a senior level position directly responsible to me. I'm dedicated to serving all Knoxvillians from all walks of life and all corners of the city. So regardless if you're a Democrat, a Republican, a Libertarian, Green Party, an Independent, or not sure what to call yourself, I want to earn your trust and your vote and your support. And now I'd like to introduce Ivan Harmon, but first, I want to say that many of you might know him as a former council member or school board member or commissioner, but how I know Ivan Harmon is early in life. My grandfather was very good friends with Ivan Harmon. In fact, my grandfather, one of my grandfather's friends, some 30 years ago, they went to Ivan and actually recruited him to work to try to run for school board. And so when I was 5 years old, I remember going to Merchants Drive, the food line, and seeing Ivan. And I'll tell you, it's funny how things come full circle in life. And I think my grandfather, who passed back in 2002, is probably smiling down today at how it does come full circle with Ivan being here. If nothing else, Ivan Harmon.
I appreciate everyone being here today. I'm here today to throw my support to Mark's campaign. I think Mark's going to be the man that we can work with in the future. I think Mark has the city at hand. I think we got to look at what the candidate has to look at the taxpayers, and I think Mark's the person that's going to be doing that. You know, we can't afford to have someone in our mayor's office that will not look at the possibility of keeping their taxes low, keeping their services high, and I think Mark's the guy to do that. Mark has the ability to work with the small businesses and help our community grow, and also help our city grow by getting the economy back in line. I think doing that is a person that Mark can do that job, and I'm just honored to be here today to throw my support to Mark. And I'm going to be working with Mark as much as I can in the campaign, and I'm looking forward to November to we inaugurate Mark in as our mayor, and we can work to make him a good mayor for the city of Knoxville. And it's an honor to be here today to throw my support to Mark Padgett. Thank you.
Next, I want to introduce Joe Hultquist. You know, I knew that I was really going to like Joe because the things he wanted to talk about were casting a vision for Knoxville's future. It might have been Joe that said this, but he sure makes me think about it. That old saying that says, if you don't know where you're going, any old road will get you there. And I really saw in Joe two things. He was all about neighborhoods and communities and people, and where community service really hit the road in our neighborhoods, and about casting a vision for Knoxville. And I think that's why we got along so well. And I'm so proud to have Joe Hultquist support today and endorsement. And without anything else, Joe Hultquist.
Thanks, Mark. Most of you know that, and Mark touched on this, that I've been passionate about this city, and certainly the district I represented, but the whole city, when I was on city council pushing for not just neighborhood organization development, although that was one of my priorities from day one when I went on council, but also seeing the bigger vision, seeing what the potential is for the city and some of the key opportunities we have or assets. One of those being the South Waterfront, something that now Governor Haslam himself acknowledged publicly at a press conference back in December that I was the one that got that started. And it's something that I was passionate about then, I'm passionate about today, and very concerned about, because it's going to take passionate, driven leadership to make sure that it happens, to make sure that these opportunities are addressed. That's one example, but it's a huge example. It has it presents the opportunity, I should say, to really transform this city and to change the identity of Knoxville. And so, to me, that's not the only issue. That's one of many issues, but it looms very large on my agenda and my horizon, and the fact that Mark is passionate about moving that forward in a way that I think will work. And I think that's key. You have to have someone who doesn't just understand the mechanics of government, but understands investment and understands the private sector, because that's what's going to make it happen. The same's true of another big project that I worked on and initiated, Cumberland Avenue. With our main partner there is going to be the University of Tennessee in terms of single partners, but the reality is that if we can't bring in the private sector and the major weight in that partnership be carried by the private sector, then that's not going to happen in the way that it needs to too. And we have somewhere between $500 million and $1 billion of potential development and investment just in the Cumberland Avenue area, something that many people had never thought possible, but now we have a plan that takes us in that direction. During my campaign, I wasn't as effective as I'd like to have been due to a lack of resources in getting my message out. And for those of you who heard that message, part of that message was efficiency in government. And what that means is we can't rely on what we've done in the past. We're moving into a new era. And if you look at the federal government, you look at the state government is doing better than most states in the country, but it's still got its challenges. On the federal level, it's a whole new ball game. The resources are not going to be there. Uncle Sugar, as some people call our federal government, is not going to be there to hand money to the local governments anymore to the degree that it has been, if at all in some cases. So having experience in dealing with the federal government and federal funds, while it's of value, it's going to be of less value in the future. And we've got to figure out how to make local government, this city government, efficient and effective. It's something I'm passionate about, and the person that I believe has the passion in this race going forward about that is Mark Padgett. And I could say more, but I think I need to yield the floor at this point. So thank you, Mark.
The next person I want to introduce is Bo Bennett, and I'll tell you, we've had about 45 debates together as a group, and most of us have taken part in most of those, but where Bo really caught me, we were at Central High School, and he was talking about himself and introducing himself, and he said, you know, I also want to tell you I've done a lot in the martial arts, and one time I met Chuck Norris and he gave me a hug, and then I grew this beard the next morning. And I thought he won all the kids over at Central High School with that, I think. But you know, so many times we've had together, and we've all spent a lot of time together over the last 10, 12 months, and I really developed a relationship and to know where they stand, and Bo's a great guy and going to be a great leader here in Knoxville. And I'm really proud to have him supporting me, and without anything else, Bo.
Well, you know, first of all, I have, throughout all the debates, I've got to spend some time with Mark. I've got to know him. I've got to know the type of person he is and the type of character he has. And I encourage everybody to try and get to know Mark as good as you can, because he's a great guy. He really is. You know, me and him have a lot in common. We were the two youngest candidates. We were also the two only candidates who were not formerly politicians. And that's something that I think we need moving forward. I think we need somebody who comes at this thing from a different perspective, who can look at this from outside of being in office before. You know, the area where we differed there was, you know, him raising a lot of money and me raising none. But, you know, aside from that, and everything aside, Mark is a great guy, and I'm knocking that microphone off. He really has a heart to serve this city, and I firmly believe that. You know, my whole campaign was about community. It was about uniting Knoxville and moving as a community-driven Knoxville forward. And I really believe that Mark can do that. I think he is an outstanding guy. I think he'll make a great mayor, and I'm proud to stand here and endorse him today.
The people you see behind me push different and some of the same issues. Neighborhoods, greenways and parks. But the next person I'm about to introduce, he's a real leader in this county, in this area, and he talked to my passion for making sure that we ensure a safe neighborhood for all Knoxvillians. You shouldn't be afraid in your own home, and we should drive those issues, the endemic, the root causes of crime in our neighborhoods, drugs and prostitution and gangs and other things. And I'm especially proud to have Sheriff J.J. Jones here with us today, and him supporting me, because as far as leadership and making sure that we live in a safe community, the city and county have to work together. And I would tell you, I've lived in Knoxville for a long time, and I remember when we didn't have a city and county that worked well together. But our city, our police force, our sheriff's office, and the county work well together, and our next mayor needs to be someone who focuses on crime and rooting it out of our neighborhoods. And I'm, again, especially proud to introduce Sheriff Jimmy J.J. Jones.
You know, when you follow three politicians, there's not much left to be said. But my main concern is public safety. Mark and I have spoken many times about public safety, and his number one priority is safer neighborhoods and the protection of our children. He cares about the men and women of the Knoxville Police Department and the Knoxville Fire Department. He knows the job they do every day is tough. He's young, he's energetic. I think he'll make a great mayor. We can all work together. I'm proud to support Mark Padgett as mayor. Thank you.
Be happy to take any questions. If not, then thank you all for coming today, and thank each of you. And I just want to point out a couple other people that came here that I really appreciate. Chief Garza and Jeff Owenby, so many others, Chuck Williams, and too many out here to name, but I really appreciate you being here today and for your support of my campaign as well. Thank you all very much, and thank you to so many people. Yes, Hubert.
Sheriff aside, these other three candidates, what did you offer them for their support?
I offered them nothing. You know, we got to know each other a lot, Hubert, during 45 debates in over 10 months, and you really develop after about the first 10 or 12 forums or debates. You really see what you have in common with your opponents, and what you share and what you differ on. And I would tell you that through this, I believe that I knew who I was going to support because of things they said had I not won. And I think they, in their mind, made those same decisions based upon the things I was saying, the things I believe. I don't believe it's proper to make promises to anyone and would not do such. And you can ask each one of them individually. There's been no promises, and that's not the way. That's what we're trying to move away from, Hubert. When I talk about running government more like a business, it's merit-based. It's what you can do. It's hard work. You know, it's making sure that we appreciate that hard work and innovation. Those are the things that the private sector can't afford to just give favoritism because you go out of business, that we do too many times in government, so we're not going to do that.
So who would you have supported if you got one?
Well, I'll tell you, one day I went to Ivan, and I'll just be straightforward. I went to Ivan and I told him, actually Ivan came up to me and said, you know, Mark, I really like the way you stand on that. And I feel like, you know, it was probably after about 15 or 20 debates, and halfway through it, and Ivan said, you know what, I really think you got the energy and the passion for this, and, you know, I'm going to beat you. But if I don't, then you've really earned my support. And I said, Ivan, I've known you since I was 5 years old. You're a hard-working man. There's no one, my grandfather and father both told me, you know, Ivan has a true passion for public service, for helping people, for getting out there on a personal level. And I respected that, and I hope Joe and Bo don't hold that against me, because I think they're great as well. But I've known Ivan for almost my whole life and realized what kind of candidate that he was, and you know, you have that personal connection. So I, you know.
Do you adopt Joe Hultquist's position on KUB?
Now, these people
Is that
are here.
a no?
I said no.
Okay.
These people are here for a couple of different reasons, I believe. Not because they support everything. You know, we're all going to differ. I don't even agree with my wife on every single thing. She's always right. But I'll tell you this.
To that question, do you disagree or disagree with that? Why don't you? Would you stand in mind?
I will not be approaching KUB about taking them under the city, period. You heard. Period. I will not be approaching KUB about taking them under the city, period.
What do these endorsements mean for your chances in November?
You know, I don't guess I'm not a political scientist, so to say. I would like to think that they'll help our chances. But the truth is, I'm just so humbled by this support and by their endorsement that I believe these gentlemen, these public servants, they've been out there in the community serving and serving well for years, and people know them. And I believe, you know, just like I've said in business, the best way to grow a business is word of mouth. If somebody says, hey, I've done business with them, and they're a great company to do business with, I think, you know, this type of campaign is the same thing, to where someone that knows what type of person Ivan Harmon is, someone that knows JJ's passion for fighting crime and making our neighborhoods safe, Joe's ability to cast a vision, to work diligently on neighborhood issues, you know, Bo's ability to really connect with people. I think if they know them, then that gives me a better shot, because they know if they're endorsing me, that it says a little more if they've not gotten an opportunity to know and meet me. They know what kind of public servant Jeff Owenby is. And if these people are supporting me, I hope it lets them know a little more what type of person I am if they can't meet me in person.
That's Joe Hultquist. When you offered your support, did you know that he would not embrace your idea on KUB, because that was your platform?
That, based on our limited conversation, touching on issues like that, we never actually zoomed in and focused in on that specific issue, but based on previous conversations, limited conversation in that context, that was my impression, is not my understanding. And I'm okay with that.
Mark, I noticed that they all have something in common. Your men looks sort of like the man against the women here. Did you get a woman to endorse?
The only other woman running, Betty, happens to be my opponent now, and I have a lot of respect for her. She's a great lady. I've known her since I was 16, and I would just tell you, I would hope to get...
Sheriff Jones.
Well, because today, like I talked about, we're having press conferences like we did last week when we let out the Padgett plan, the 30-page document that continues that conversation. Today, what I've talked about in this is neighborhoods, crime, community, stronger, safer neighborhoods that are better connected. And really, it fits with what we're doing here, because JJ had told me, as we talked, Sheriff Jones had told me that he supported, you know, some of the things that we've said about crime and my hard stance on that. And so it really just fit in with the stronger, safer, more connected neighborhoods, and that's the reason that the sheriff's up here. And I'm really proud that he's up here standing with me today.
Do you support his Justice Center idea?
I don't think I had anything to do with that when it was being talked about. And again, we're not up here because we all agree on every idea. We're up here today because we agree on certain things that they think I would make the best mayor for the city of Knoxville, and I think that's why we're up here today.
Now, you're an acknowledged Democrat, but all of your support behind you is Republican. I'm not sure about Joe Hultquist. So where's your Democrat supporters?
Well, we have many of those. I think if you look out in our financial filings and things, Hubert, you'll see many Democrats that are supporting me in the community, that have been community servants and have been involved in not-for-profits and business and politics, whatever it is, for many years, and I encourage you to do that. Some of them are here today.
Point them out.
Well, my
Right
father's
here's
right
one.
behind you. Warren Gooch is right here as well.
I'll put my Democratic credentials up against anybody in this city or this county.
Mr. Gooch, we're well aware.
And let me say this, Hubert, I want to say this. I tell people, while Madeline and I are both Democrats, we come from very different parts of the party. We're very different as candidates. You know, I'm a small business owner. I worked for Governor Bredesen. I'm my grandfather's Democrat. I'm a Phil Bredesen Democrat. My grandfather, you know, when I was very young, maybe 6 or 8 years old, and I tell people I got my politics and my religion from my grandfather, but this is what he told me about my family's politics. He said, Mark, you come from hardworking, blue-collar roots. Don't ever forget it. He said, our family believes that small business is the backbone of America. And he said, we believe that the sign of good government is low taxes. Now that's my Democratic upbringing, Hubert. And I'll tell you this, I worked hard for Governor Bredesen. I worked hard for Harold Ford Jr. I'd put my Democratic credentials up against anyone. But here's the thing. This is nonpartisan. These gentlemen are Republicans. And they're supporting me because it is nonpartisan. It's about Knoxville. It's not about D's and R's. This is about us working together. You know, my social agenda is parks and greenways, sidewalks, and filling potholes. Those are going to be my social agenda. I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm a business owner. I have to be a fiscal conservative or I wouldn't stay in business. Those are the things Knoxvillians should care about. Who's going to keep taxes low? Who's going to make sure that that rainy day fund stays high enough to where we have a high bond rating and we pay less interest on our debt? Who's going to make sure that somebody can get their arms around the city budget, know where to cut and where to streamline, and how to divert those taxes to programs that grow jobs in our economy? The things that make our neighborhoods safer and stronger, to improve city services. Hubert, those are the things Knoxvillians care about. I've knocked on a lot of doors. We've reached out to 22,000 people in Knoxville. Hubert, I'll tell you this. When I knocked on those doors, they said, well, Mark, are you a Democrat or a Republican? I said, it's a nonpartisan race. You know what they said, Hubert? Good. Good. If there's no more questions, thank you for your